want to ask you the first question here. What positives can come from shutting down Strasburg at the 160, 170 innings mark?
I think the positives are taking place right now, Jonathan. I really think that we're talking about two aspects of their game that are very strong right now, which is pitching and hitting. Well, to me, why do you adjust or why do you feel like it's such a priority to get your bats cracking? Well, it's because you're going to have to bring that element to be able to offset any type of mishaps from your pitching staff. So I think that if you have the balance of having good run support, having good offense, and that goes with the pitching staff that you have minus Strasburg, I think the positives are already taking place by them becoming more of an offensive balanced team with their pitching staff.
Dan, positives out of shutting down Strasburg.
If there's a positive to me, I mean, the positives are obviously the long-term thing for his health, and they have shown that they are committed to this plan, that Mike Rizzo is not going to back down. And I think that presumably some agents and some players in the future might say, hey, this is a team that, takes this health of its players very, very seriously. But I mean, I think that hasn't changed over the last few weeks or months. I think that's been obvious for months. I mean, I think that from like a strategic kind of point of view, kind of different than what LeVar's saying, I think that this, in a way, is going to take some pressure off them because the national media, and I've certainly been part of this, but they are going to go crazy with this for the next 3 weeks, and it sort of allows the Nationals to just keep doing what they're doing, which is winning baseball games without having to worry about, are these young kids going to be up for this task? Is there enough hitting on this team? Like all the other things, are they going to crumble under the pressure? It's all going to get totally covered up by this avalanche of Strasburg coverage.
Until he goes out. Because
and
once he's deactivated, then all those questions become.
You're right. But this gives them like a month of free sailing. I feel
but even after that, it takes the pressure off to a degree because then all the weight is
Pressure's
on Rizzo,
Mike Rizzo,
right?
yeah, I agree.
I mean, Jason, he's got to be the fall guy, regardless of what happens to this team once he's shut down. Would you agree?
Unless they win the World Series.
If they win the World Series, he's also the fall guy. He should get all the credit in the world for it.
Fall guy is not usually used.
No, I know, but he's the lift up guy. I don't know whatever the guy is that you give the credit
fall
to.
Guy was popular in the TV show.
When you were talking about can I just butt in?
Yeah,
absolutely.
When you were talking about how such a big difference between 4 regular season starts at the end. I think that realistically, and again, I've written a ton about this, and I think it's fascinating. But like realistically, if you're putting John Lannon in there, I think the Nats win something like 50% of John Lannon's starts over his career, something like the 40%. And with Strasburg, it's like 70%. But if you're talking about 4 regular season games, that's realistically it's the difference between like 3 wins and 2 wins. So you're talking about basically a 1-game difference in the regular season. And with the cushion that they have, it's pretty unlikely that one regular season win would be.
I don't dispute your math and your logic, but I would dispute the difference in this. There is a difference in a clubhouse when you got the big horse going tomorrow. I mean, because what it does is psychologically, it's like, well, hell, we get a run. Strauss can go out. I mean, and I'm not saying Lannon is a very competent rotation replacement.
For regular season.
I'm just saying that there is a difference in when you got the big dog on the mound.
I agree. What I was going to try to say is that I think that ultimately, like the time when really the pressure mounts on Mike Rizzo is if you're talking Game 5 of a series or Game 7 of a series, and instead of trotting out Stephen Strasburg, you're trotting out Ross Detweiler. That's
but you wouldn't be trotting out Ross Detweiler.
Well, then you're trotting out Edwin Jackson, whatever. You're trotting out someone who's not somebody who's not.
Well, I don't think we can underestimate the leadership in that clubhouse either, though. You have some proven guys. I mean, Edwin Jackson is a leader.
He won a World Series.
Ryan Zimmerman is a leader. Jason Worth has been in a World Series. He's a leader. So you have good leadership in this clubhouse. I don't think that they just, oh my gosh, we don't have one of our pitchers. I think that they've already, and again, that comes back to my original point, I think they've already resigned to the fact that this going forward, they're going to have to do it without Zimmerman. And I'm beyond or Strasburg. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in that clubhouse that would say that, our chances aren't as good without Strasburg. I think that you have to have the intestinal fortitude and the will to want to win. You're not a winner because of Strasburg.
Right.
You're a winner because as a team, you go out there to win.
And here's the other thing that I think the national media probably has not focused on and maybe won't focus on. But even without Strasburg, they have one of the best pitching staffs of any team that's going to be in the playoffs. And Jordan Zimmerman leads the majors in the ERA right now, right?
2.35.
Gonzalez was an all-star. Detweiler and Jackson have both been perfectly fine. They have one of the best starting staffs in the playoffs.
Well, they have the best. I mean, at least statistically speaking, the best staff in baseball.
Well, and to that point, so Jason, I'm curious, as somebody who's covered the Dodgers and baseball for many years, as has been noted in this show previously, I believe.
Yeah. I thought I'd say it.
I'm curious about the cumulative effect. You mentioned the sort of the psychological effect that knowing that you're number one guy, your ace, your horse is going in the next day. I mean, what are the other sort of trickle-down effects of shutting down Strasburg? Now, to a man, obviously, LeVar mentioned how the team has sort of resigned to this. Everybody knows this is going to happen. And personally, I think they understand the value of his long-term health, obviously, and they'd all like to be in that position in a way to, be as healthy as possible down the road. But can they use this? I mean, they're going to use this for extra motivation as well, right? I mean, this is hey, people don't think I can win the World Series without our horse. Let's go show them sort of a thing. What other sort of effect is it going to have? Is it going to be mostly positive or negative in the clubhouse?
Well, there's a baseball axiom that goes that momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher.
Right.
And
that happens every show too.
Well, it's 2 in a row. We're 2 in a row now.
I do remember that one.
I guess it's possible. That's some of our.
The reason why I know is because I've used it. I've used it since.
It's possible. Some of our loyal fans missed last week's show.
That's true. Anyway, so momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher.
It's profound though. It's still
it is
profound even in this show.
So is it motivation? I mean, these are professional athletes. These are big league ball players. I mean, I think everyone in that clubhouse wants to win. There's a byproduct of winning, and that's the chemistry that comes from it. And I think when you see what's going on with this team right now, there's no extra motivation they're going to need. Would it help them to have Strasburg in a 3-man playoff rotation? Yeah, I think it would. I think that's. But this is the decision management has made. I personally think it's the right long-term decision. People can disagree with that. Bottom line, this is a group with Strasburg or without Strasburg that should be good enough to get into the playoffs and do some damage. Would they win the World Series if he remained in the rotation? Who knows? You don't know. Mm-hmm. But I respect the move that they're making.
My new favorite storyline of this whole thing, and I think that this was brought up in Adam Kilgore's great story in today's paper, is that you don't really have to feel sorry for Washington fans, because whether or not they win the World Series or whatever, obviously they're going to be treated to fine baseball for the next however many years, 4 or 5 years for sure. And so I don't think that Washington fans are the victim here. I sort of sympathize with the argument though that someone like Mark DeRosa, you don't know how many more chances a guy like that's going to get. And when you're taking up, you're preserving Stephen Strasburg's long-term health. You're doing what's best for the long-term interests of the Washington Nationals. But if you're 37-year-old Mark DeRosa playing all season trying to win a World Series championship, kind of hard. For me, it's kind of hard to say to that guy, okay, sorry, we're taking this pitcher away from you.
I think another aspect that has to be brought out and discussed in all of this is this team has won in spite of all season long.
Injuries,
and I think that has to be something that is addressed as a part of going forward. Sure, this is one of the biggest key components of this season in Strasburg, but isn't Ian Desmond a major part? Isn't Ryan Zimmerman before he got the shot? Isn't Moores? Isn't Jason Worth if he comes back and plays? Isn't Bryce Harper if he gets through his slump? So to me, this team has shown the ability to win in spite of. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, as a former player, when you have that type of confidence going through a season, like I can look around the locker room and I know the guys that we're going out there with are capable of winning, and we've shown it and we've proven it. It doesn't matter who's in or who's out. That confidence and that belief in one another is definitely a propelling, part of a team. And I think that they have had the opportunity to really kind of embrace that they have won in spite of. They have not had a healthy squad all season long.
And that's another reason to give a lot of credit to Mike Rizzo, depth and bullpen. And the bullpen's also one of the better bullpens in the league, which is going to play a factor in the postseason, obviously, with a shorter rotation.